Well, good afternoon. Trucker Todd here, and time for another news story. All right, folks, my screen just went blank. There we go. The FMCSA is proposing 2 pilot programs to study changes to hours of service regulations. If you're not in trucking, if you don't know, most of us have a love-hate relationship with our electronic logging devices, also referred to as ELDs. There's things we love about them, there's things we hate about them. Some of you are new enough you've never ran them, or in very limited deals, maybe when your ELD was down, things like that. Basically, one of the things I like about them is it kind of removes a lot of the chances for error. In the old paper logs, it was real easy to get in a hurry and make a mistake, forget to sign one, or forget to include some information on there. With these electronic logs, it kind of tells you if you're forgetting something, if you're making a mistake. So from that perspective, I like it. Also, in the old days, quite honestly, a lot of times dispatchers would force us to drive past when we probably should. I'm neither confirming or denying, but some of us ran 2 or 3 logbooks at one time back in the day, and there's just a lot of, it probably is safer with them. Sometimes it can be inconvenient if you need 5 more minutes here or 10 more minutes there. Good trip planning wipes out a lot of that. I've had some pretty good debates on here with some of you. There's some things that no matter how good you trip plan for, you just can't account for. But good trip planning does take care of a lot of it. This story is coming to you from the Trucker. It's an email I get several times a week. I'll throw a link in the description in the comments. If it'll let me, I'll pin it at the top of the comments so you can check out the article yourself. If it doesn't let me, then you'll just have to find it. But title of the article is FMCSA proposes 2 pilot programs to study changes to hours of service regulations. It says, one issue that's frequently cause for complaint among truck drivers is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's hours of service regulations. For the rest of the article, you'll hear me refer to them as the FMCSA. Good news, on September 17th, the FMCSA published 2 long-awaited actions regarding driver hours of service. Each calls for a pilot program that could lead to an easing of hours of service regulations. The first part is split sleeper berth requirements. The first would change the split sleeper berth requirement, granting drivers more freedom to choose how much time they spend in the sleeper during each shift. Currently, regulations call for at least 1 sleeper berth period of at least 7 consecutive hours, leaving 3 hours for the second sleeper berth period. Drivers have complained that the inability to split their sleeper berth time into 2 5-hour periods or any combination of hours totaling 10 hours is inflexible and can prevent them from getting the rest they need. More flexibility would allow drivers to arrange sleep periods to best avoid traffic congestion and to better accommodate their natural circadian rhythms. This happened to me just this past week. I got to a place I was going to split log. When you pull a reefer, you do a lot of split log. I needed to be in the sleeper berth for 7 hours, and I was only in there for like 6 hours and 15 minutes. They said, hey, you got to come up here now or you'll have to wait a couple hours till we can bring you in again. And so I had to go ahead and go in. As a result of that, it required me to take another, it ended up being a 10-hour break later that day because of having to come in before the 7-hour mark. This rule here would have definitely made that a lot better situation. I'd have still got the rest I needed, but I'd have not had to stop for another 7 to 10 hours later that morning. The purpose of the pilot program is to demonstrate that the proposed, hang on, I'm getting a call again. The purpose of the pilot program is to demonstrate that the proposed change achieves the level of safety that is equivalent to or greater than the level of safety that would be achieved through compliance with the current regulations. If it does, a separate FMCSA proposal to change the regulation will need to be published. So it's still a long way from becoming something that we could utilize, but at least it's something that they're looking into. They're doing experiments with and things like that. As you know, usually anytime there's any changes, there's always legal challenges involved, and so it could be a couple of years down the line, but at least it's something that they're looking at. It says no sleeper berth hours were proposed for the pilot program, which allows temporary regulatory relief from the current rule. Only 256 CDL holders who regularly use sleeper berths will be allowed to participate in the pilot, but that doesn't preclude drivers not selected for the pilot program from taking part in the process. The FMCSA has announced a comment period lasting through November 17th, 2025. Man, it'd be cool to get in some of these pilot programs. I don't even know how you do it, but as I think about it, man, it'd make for some great videos. I could tell you how it was going. And if any of you know how to apply for these pilot programs, let me know down in the comments below. The second part of this is pausing the 14-hour driving window. The second FMCSA pilot program explores allowing drivers to pause their 14-hour driving window. This would allow drivers to select any non-driving status, such as off-duty, sleeper berth, or on-duty not driving, as a period that does not count against the 14-hour rule. Drivers have complained that when counted against the 14-hour clock, periods such as detention time at customer locations or time spent obtaining vehicle repairs can eat into their allotted drive time, impacting pay for that day. Depending on the circumstances, the driver's delivery could be pushed out a day, causing the loss of an entire day's pay. I think we've all experienced that, all been through that, so no need for me to elaborate on that. Another complaint was that the strict adherence to the 14-hour rule precluded a driver who normally doesn't split, man, I'm tongue-tied today. Precluded a driver who doesn't normally split sleeper berth hours from using a rest period to avoid periods of highly congested traffic. Yeah, I've talked about this before. If I'm going through a big city and I know it's going to be rush hour, especially Atlanta, sometimes Dallas, I'll pull over and take a 30-minute break or whatever, maybe even an hour or two break, and split log it to avoid that congestion, because you'll spend a lot longer than that in traffic in some cases. Before the 14-hour rule, a timely nap could allow the driver to rest and wake up refreshed. Therefore, they drive more safely and efficiently in periods of reduced traffic congestion. So doing so under the current rules can cost a driver income from the lost driving hours. Absolutely, and I think that causes a lot of drivers to make bad decisions. The 14-hour pilot program, like the split sleeper berth pilot, allows for regulatory relief, but in this case limitations are specified. The period used to extend the 14-hour window must be at least 30 minutes and no longer than 3 hours. As with the sleeper berth pilot, only 256 drivers will be allowed to participate. The comment period for this proposal also continues through November 17th. Just a weird side note, I wonder how they come up with that number of 256 drivers. If you know that, put it down in the comments below too. Looks like they'd pick a more round number like 300, 500, something like that. But that's just my thinking. I was wondering if maybe you knew how they arrive at that. But anyway. It says a successful pilot, which, and then in parentheses it says, meaning that the results show a level of safety greater to or greater than current regulations, will result in a later proposal to amend the regulation. And then it encourages you to make your voice be heard. Is this a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Let me know in the comments. Contact FMCSA. Let them know. As I said, I'll put a link to this article in the description or in the pin to the comments so that you guys can read it, and it's got information about how to let FMCSA know what you think about this. Remember, if you don't share your opinion with them, then you can't complain when the rule comes out, good or bad. So, or you shouldn't complain anyway. So put your comments in there. Let your voice be heard. We always say that truckers don't have a voice. Well, a lot of times we don't have a voice because we don't speak. All right, folks, that's it for this one. Y'all have a great day. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.